Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and today on A Vogel Talks Menopause I'm going to be talking about menopause symptoms you may not be aware about. If you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. There are many known symptoms of the menopause, but there are also some that can come as a surprise to lots of women. They don't realize that what they are experiencing is actually connected to their menopause. So today what I'm going to do is look at these particular symptoms, why they occur, and what you can do to help yourself. Now, for those of you that have been watching, I spoke a few weeks ago about Gen M, which is a UK organisation that's encompassing companies and workplaces in helping to support women through the menopause. And they did what's called an invisibility report. And they found that 51% of women could only name 3 menopause symptoms. Now, there are 48 recognised ones and also a good number that can occur in some women but not in others. So as you can imagine, a lot of women, as I mentioned before, don't realise that what they're experiencing is the menopause and not anything else that's going on in their life. So let's have a look at these particular symptoms. So the first one is that old injuries or health conditions resurface. This is a really interesting one because what we think is happening is that as your estrogen falls and all the physical and emotional changes that are going on, the body itself can become slightly weaker, and these old injuries and conditions that the body was able to keep well under control suddenly appear out of the blue. Now, it could be things like aches and pains, it could be old injuries. It may well be that even as a child you broke your leg or your arm, maybe it took a little while to heal, and suddenly you just feel as if your bones are aching again, and you're thinking, oh, that's a bit strange. That's where I broke my leg all these years ago. It could be conditions such as childhood asthma, it could be eczema, it could even be teenage acne. It's amazing how many women say that suddenly their faces are breaking out in spots like they did as a teenager. So again, this tends to be the fact that your body's just struggling a little bit. It's needing a bit more support in helping itself through the menopause. With these particular conditions, whatever seems to have resurfaced, then you would just treat it accordingly, like you would have done maybe years ago. I've also obviously got blogs on things like joint pain and skin conditions, so you can look at those just to see what you can do to help yourself. The other thing that can sometimes happen is that emotional issues that you had many years ago can come to the fore as well. And sometimes, especially if they were quite traumatic, these can be very, very distressing. So if you find that maybe old memories are coming back, or situations that you would prefer not to think about suddenly spring to mind, then this may be the point, if you're struggling with these, is maybe just to seek some counselling to help you through this process. Number 2 is recovering urinary tract infections. Now, this is it is really a common one. It's amazing how many women end up getting things like cystitis. What can happen then is you go to the doctor, you get antibiotics, that clears it up and you think that's great. A couple of weeks later, everything pops up again, you get treated again, and then another few weeks, and it ends up in a real vicious cycle. What can happen here is that as your estrogen starts to fall, it can affect the level of friendly bacteria in the vagina. And these specific bacteria, they also police, they also look after and protect the opening of the urethra, which is the tube that goes up to the bladder. So if these bacteria decrease, you can become more vulnerable to bladder infections at any time. If you then take antibiotics, which will kill off more of the friendly bacteria, you can literally leave yourself wide open to repeat infections. So what you need to do here, first of all, is to get a vaginal probiotic. These can be really helpful, even for things like vaginal dryness and vaginal thrush. You would then try and treat the bladder infection as naturally as possible. You could look at our licensed uva ursi and echinacea drops, which are licensed for symptoms such as cystitis. If you are getting the repeat infections, we have a really nice tablet called Cranberry Complex, which can be taken on a daily basis as a support and a preventative. The other thing here that is so important is the water, and you really need to drink lots of it. I myself had a bladder breakdown a number of years ago, and it was basically due to lots of travel. I ended up getting really dehydrated. I was working in a lot of sunshine, and I think my bladder just went into a meltdown. And one of the main things I found was to drink so much water. It was a bit daunting, but it's really important. If you are dehydrated, your urine becomes very acidic, it becomes very concentrated, and that will add to the burning, the inflammation and the discomfort and pain, especially when you're passing urine. So if you drink lots of water, and I don't mean just a sip here and there, so you would drink a full glass at a time on a regular basis, this is going to flush the bladder, it's going to dilute your urine, and it can bring comfort back really quite quickly. So, you know, maybe for a day or two you're going to have to be really conscious about drinking water, but it can be something that can work really, really quickly. And number 3 is breathing difficulties. This was one that actually surprised us when it first came to our attention, because it's not something you would associate with the menopause and hormonal changes. But if you think about it, the lungs are one of the biggest mucous membrane areas in the body, and they need to be kept moist during the whole breathing process. These mucous membranes can dry during the menopause, and we know that vaginal dryness is really common, but the lungs can be affected as well. When this happens, you may find it more difficult to breathe deeply. You may find you get out of breath going up the stairs, or you might find you get out of breath quicker when you're exercising. Some women who may already have asthma find that their asthma gets worse, or some women find that they end up developing asthma. Some other women find that every time they get the cold or the flu, it goes straight to the lungs. They can end up with a continual cough and a lot of discomfort. For this particular one, there is a supplement called Buckthorn Oil, which helps to improve mucous membranes generally. You can also look at vitamin C. Vitamin C is really important for the support of lung tissue. You might also find a zinc supplement can be really helpful. And again, remember to drink the water. With this one though, if you're starting to feel that your breathing is getting a little bit laboured, please just check this one out with your doctor to make sure that nothing else is going on. So I hope you found this one helpful. There'll be more next week on menopause symptoms you may not be aware of. If any of you out there are wondering whether what you have is due to the menopause, then please make a little comment and I'll see if I can help. So until then, I will see you next week for another edition of A. Vogel Talks Menopause.